Okay, this is the next installment of trees I haven't killed. And we're going to be talking about Tremletts Bitter today. It's probably shouldn't have survived, but it's surviving, and I'm glad for it. And I want to show you the tree and discuss some of its physiology, its phenotype, what it looks like, what Orange Pippin says about it, and what Geneva and the repository say about it. So let's start off by seeing what Orange Pippin says about it. Okay, here's Tremletts Bitter Apple. Now, we've taken, I got Tremletts Bitter from a grower, and that grower was new about this division where the repository in Geneva had one Tremletts Bitter, and he was under the impression he had that proper British Tremletts Bitter. So it'll be interesting to see what my fruit turns out like. One is a bitter sharp, one's a bitter sweet. Either way, it's got bitters, and that makes me happy. I'm just really curious to see what I get, and this is the first year I've got a crop on. So that's pretty important to me. Let's take a look at the next tab, and we're at the plant germplasm system, and I've put in Tremletts Bitter, and it came back with Tremletts Bitter, which is the UK spelling. They're showing that the scion came from the UK. Here we go. A little bit of narrative. They're describing the fruit, the skin, not completely red. It's going to have different striping of color on it, which is something I've seen before. It's a pretty looking fruit that way. Acid, astringent, bitter, spitter. I'm looking forward to that. Inedible, which is why you're not going to find many commercial growers growing it because it has no other market value. It's inedible. Late harvest, September, before delicious though, 2 weeks before delicious, which is cool. Extremely biennial cropping. You're going to see why I'm going to talk about that a little bit when we go into the orchard, but that's something I need to go out there and thin on that tree. I don't want them to become biennial. Born in clusters, you're going to see that. Very susceptible to fire blight. Well, I'm very susceptible to luck, apparently, because my trees are still standing and I have a high fire blight pressure. Now, to my benefit, I carpet bomb them during fire blight season to try and fight that off, so possibly that helped too. They talk about where some of it came from Long Ashton's Research Center, and this quote, not true as Tremletts Bitter, but still nice. Maybe it should be called Tremletts Geneva. We'll see. I'm going to scroll to the detail accession page, observation page. It's a diploid, kind of typical. It is moderately susceptible to fire blight, and then it says medium to heavy rating. I'm not sure what that distinction is all about. I'm looking for juiciness, dry. And I don't know, I've seen this on some of these apples. You don't see a whole lot of juicy cider varieties, at least the ones I got. I got all the dry ones. Some russeting, but at the pedicule end only, pedicule being the stem. Very fine. Now mine will probably be russeted anyway because I sprayed with copper. Nothing really extraordinary here other than I don't see fruit shape, uniform standard MAC, and I have a different shape on my fruit. So that's something I want to keep an eye on. Maybe I do have a British Tremletts and not a Geneva Tremletts. Not much else to talk about. I'm going to take you out in the orchard. You can take a look at the tree. One thing I'll mention, but I'll point out to you now, is that It's not, Wixen by far is a bushy tree. I regret will not have any metal dwar to show you because those were bushy trees too. These trees will train easily to a central leader, so if you put a tree post on them early enough, you should not have any trouble training them and maintaining them. I would say 4 feet together is a wee bit close on a G41 rootstock. You may want to put them a little bit further apart. Your results may vary. And let's go out to the orchard. Thank you. This is a cider variety. You can see they have a kind of an odd shape about them. This one's cropping heavily. I got to make sure I don't create a biannual tree. They're not growing as vigorously as the Wixen, but they're doing well. They also aren't quite as bushy. So training them to a central leader should not be as difficult if you start when they're young. That's about 10 feet there. It may need a heading cut and it may need to be trained out a wee bit. You can see that I've put tree posts on 3 of these, and it really does help to stabilize the tree. Pure and simple. They catch a lot of wind. You can see that their main leader, their trunks, aren't that thick, and they start bouncing and bending and you have problems. So I really do recommend that you get them onto tree posts or some sort of vertical support as soon as you can. It will certainly make them easier to train. I also would not recommend putting these on 4-foot spacing. Again, it's too tight. I made a mistake. I'll live with it, but it's a mistake. They've been largely disease resistant. I'm spotting something right now. I believe this is a necria. Yeah, that's what we got. I need to come back here later and I need to just take that off. It has no fruit on it. I just need to let it go. I'm also looking at this one fruit. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. What caught my eye, it had an ooze on. I don't know what's going on, but I'm taking it out. Anyway, it holds promise, Tremletts Bitter holds promise to add a unique tannic color to the cider. By color, I mean flavor. Getting away from being so one-dimensional with dessert fruit, this will be spice. I'll use a base cider that will be dessert fruit. It's cheap, but then I'll spend my time and effort blending with this and others to give it some character. Here, I see evidence of aphids, all that curl. I was in here with the air blast the other day. It looks like it slowed them down a wee bit, but they're still here. So, such is life. You gotta take care of them. And the Tremletts Bitter.